time to recognize that.
Do you think because when we were talking just a few minutes ago before we hit record,
Yes.
we were talking about that a change, right, in our
Hmm.
industries that we had been so client-centered or person-centered on the services that we were providing that it was kind of like self-sacrifice, like, I'll do whatever I have to, I'll work
Yeah.
those 20 hours, and what
Hmm.
do you think the change has been that's led us to have because leaders like yourself are acknowledging something has to shift. So
Yeah.
what do you think it was?
I think two things happened, at least for me. The first was, and both of you know that we started kind of providing services in the crisis space and started operating a crisis line. And that meant that the people we were serving were all in crisis. And this was all that the team was working on. And there was really just kind of this thought that how do you continue to do that every day of the week, every day of the year, and keep yourself in a position where you can keep doing that work really well, right? And so that led us down this journey of seeking out information on how to really pursue wellness for the staff. And that's where we really kind of latched on to some of the work in positive psychology. Around the same time, we were invited by an organization back on the East Coast, Proof Positive, to help teach us a little bit more about this subject. And they've been very great partners in giving us content that we've been able to use and share throughout the organization. And I think that it's just something that makes sense. It feels right, and it really does make a difference. And I'll tell you that we run triage every morning, and there was a discussion about, do we want to continue to do some of these activities, or do they feel forced? And there was a quick, we want to keep doing this from the staff, which was really great, right? So that this
Nice.
it really is making a difference in kind of their wellness as well.
They're bought in. They're liking it. They're seeing the difference. That's
We
really
say we
cool.
drank the Kool-Aid.
I know.
Yeah, we're all
I
in.
love that.
My team's going to drink some of the Kool-Aid. So we were able to be beneficiaries of some of the things from Proof Positive. So it's kind of been trickling throughout the organization. And then coming soon in January, Dr. Gutierrez is going to do a full presentation for my team on positive psychology to give more of the underpinnings of it. I think as clinicians, we're trained to be strength spotters, right? That's the goal. We're taking strengths and we're utilizing them to build on. And then to everyone's point, to do that more with associates as well. So interweaving both of those and then giving the leaders the background. So
This is oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say this is like the perfect setup because the two of you are more on the same page with it, but I'm learning about it. So
Side,
I'm
right?
our
So we're looking at
yeah.
things such as humor and appreciation of beauty and excellence versus kind of more skill-based strengths that you might focus on.
okay, love it. Okay, so that's something that you've definitely brought, introduced, and are expanding in the organization. The other things that I was hoping you could expand for our audience and myself as well would be Perma Plus and Jolts of
Hmm.
Joy.
Okay. Well, Perma Plus is this foundational model that exists within positive psychology. So each of these letters of the word Perma Plus stands for something. So P stands for positive emotion, E is engagement, M is meaning or mattering, like the t-shirt says, and R is relationships, and then A is achievement. And that plus, you hear kind of different meanings for it, but it really is vitality and also like kind of focusing on physical wellness. So making sure you're exercising, you're eating well, and you're sleeping well. So the thought is when you have balance amongst all of these things in your life, you're going to feel happier, you're going to experience happiness and joy, and you're going to flourish. And I think what's different about positive psychology is other approaches in psychology really focus kind of on deficits or symptoms that are identified in the DSM, whereas positive psychology is going beyond that. It's taking you beyond those skills that or things that you're trying to maybe get rid of or build upon and take you beyond that to pursue happiness, right? So if you are with a deficit perhaps and you need to learn how to do something and you get maybe to that baseline, or if you're experiencing depression, the absence of depression doesn't mean you're going to be happy. So it's a totally different science, and that's where we're trying to tap into something different.
I drank the Kool-Aid. You had me at the peony. I mean, with the positive and the engagement, I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, okay, I'm in. I'm in. You got me. This is awesome. And and when you're working when you're working from that perspective on
Mhm.
yourself, um, let me ask this, sorry. This is something that can be done in isolation, but can also be done as a team.
Definitely. Absolutely. So the character strengths is a great place to start, right? So everyone can take the VIA character strength inventory that's available online for free, and you understand first and foremost, what are your strengths and how do you use those strengths in your day-to-day work? And then you learn about the strengths of your teammates. And when you see them using their strengths, then you call them out, and that's part of the strength spotting, right? So one of the things that we know about these character strengths is likely when you are what we call it flow, which means you're doing your best work. You're getting lost in time. You're doing something and you're really engaged in it. And before you know it, 3 hours have passed. Likely you're employing those character strengths. And so the more that you learn about them, you can do things like learning how to use the character strength in maybe a different way at work.
I love it. I love it. See, I heard flow and I thought of, Missy, misdemeanor Elliot. And when she, gets in a flow with lyrics, right? So that
That's
makes
right.
sense. Okay, I'm in. I'm in. I'm going to get in the flow. And when you can do this assessment online for
Mhm.
free, I heard you say.
That's
So
correct.
we probably have to share that link somewhere, Dr. Miller, and make sure that we get people there. And then is it like a group report that you get, or how did you all share it together so you knew what you brought to the table, but also what other people are bringing to the table?
That is a really great question. One of the things that when we were learning this content, we were in the middle of the pandemic, right? So we weren't grouping in person. It was definitely virtual meetings, and we were challenged, like how do we do this as a group virtually? And so one of our teammates who really kind of just stepped up, we shared out all of our values. Everyone kind of the character strengths, top three were shared across the entire team. And then one of our teammates actually created a word cloud, and we created a virtual background for our team,
Oh,
and we
cool.
put the word cloud with all of our character strengths on the virtual background so that we can see visually what are the strengths. And so we know that in Dr. Miller, actually, she mentioned some of the materials that we got from Proof Positive. There's actually a big chart that you can post up in your building that talks about the character strengths and what they are for each of the individuals on the team. So just again, it's that awareness. And when someone is strength spotting you and saying, "Hey, I really appreciate, how fair you are or how funny you are. I appreciate your humor." To be on the receiving end of that, it feels good, right? It immediately kind of boosts up the energy in the room.
Yeah. And that happens in real time, right? It's because I
Hmm.
know sometimes when people start to adopt like certain techniques for dealing with their teammates, it can feel kind of forced or like not authentic, but it because it's happening in real time, it is authentic, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the sell for us was a little easier, to be honest, because we saw the value in working with the people that we serve, right? So we instantaneously saw how that could immediately be applied and be useful and really promote flourishing for those individuals. But then we saw, okay, this works for us too. We can absolutely adopt this and really, again, we're working in crisis. This is all that we're doing and making sure that we remind ourselves like we can be happy in this work. This can be work that we can flourish in and excel and really put our best work out there to serve these individuals that are not having their best moment.
I'm gonna let Dr. Miller get a word in edgewise, but it's because I'm learning about all of this that I love it so much. I love that you didn't let the virtual side stop you, that you guys did it during a time when you couldn't be in the same room, because it just shows that you can get it done with a non-co-located team. Okay, Dr. Miller. Sorry.
I don't,
Just got it
I'm
really
just, I'm
excited.
re-listening. I love it. And I'd also just like to make a request here,
Uh-oh.
Marty. At that presentation, are you going to include the website so everybody can get the character
Yes,
strengths for my team?
definitely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Have
Love it.
lots and lots of resources.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about PERMA. We've talked about the character strengths, strength spotting. Do you want to talk a little bit about Jolts of Joy? Because I think that kind of folds into the PERMA.
Yes, definitely. So this is going to be in the positive emotion realm, right? We want to see how do we tap into the positive emotion. How do we have more of that during the day? Um, when we learned about this, again, this was from the folks over at Proof Positive that shared this idea with us. We we went through the idea of kind of what are some quick things that you do during the day that immediately kind of boost your happiness, bring you some joy, like just quickly, right? It could be things like checking Instagram. It could be running through the drive-through and picking up your favorite beverage at your favorite coffee shop, right? Like
A
it could be
Diet Coke.
yeah, it could be going, doing a quick, 5-minute walk outside. It could be so many things, and it's different for all of us. Where we applied this and understood the relevance with the people that we were serving at work was, um, you know, we're working with people with developmental disability. And I know when I'm feeling kind of not at my best, maybe a little blue, and I want to turn that around, I know I can do these things and I can start to bring in a little bit more positive energy. But the people that we were serving don't always have the control to do that. And so, again, being intentional to understand what is it for that person that you're working with, that person that you're working with as a coworker that can bring them joy, right? Not all of us are going to have our best day at work. And if you know what brings joy quickly to your coworker, then now you're in a role to be able to help influence that, right? To help pick them up, to be that teammate, to really help promote, positivity and wellness and happiness. So, it's just a quick thing that you can do that's going to immediately turn kind of that mood in the positive direction.
I love that.
So
It's
our
such a
audience is a mix of professions. So if we were to transition this conversation into a take home, so individuals that have not heard specifically of this language, but maybe prescribed to just in general positive energy, and you're responsible for the energy that you bring into the room and those general foundations of all of this, right? What would you say would be two things that they could do this coming week to get themselves on a path for utilizing this with either their classroom, their nurses in a hospital, any rendition of the corporate world as well?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to say is that this really was adopted by the US military, right? First and foremost,
Oh,
because there
wow.
were people that were going to combat and they were experiencing what we call a potentially traumatic event. Some people were coming back and having definitely post-traumatic stress, but other people were coming back and they were experiencing what we call post-traumatic growth. And so, what's the difference? You have the same group of people going to the same situation, and you have two different outcomes. And so, when you look at the use of positive psychology, you can apply it to any industry, any workplace setting. And starting off with those character strengths and understanding first and foremost, what are your character strengths? How can you use them within the workplace? And how can you use them differently if you're already using them in the workplace? Is going to be one quick thing that you can do. And then to be a better teammate with the people on your team, understanding their character strengths, calling them out when you see them, making sure they understand that they matter and building up that relationship. And then, as we talked about with the Jolts of Joy, really understanding what would help to promote happiness for you on my team when I see you have a gazillion reports due, or you had an intense meeting with a client, or there was some malfunction of office equipment, right? There's so many scenarios that can kind of bring and suck the joy out of the workday. And being that teammate to be able to step in and help notice and say, I see you, you matter, and let me help you get kind of back on track.
We really appreciate you sharing the information with us, and we'll be sure to provide your credentials on your introduction. But if anyone is, stuck with us through this, you are a licensed psychologist
Mhm.
giving this information with a background in applied behavioral analysis.
That is correct. Yes, I definitely have am newer to the positive psychology, been looking at this and practicing this for a couple years now, but definitely see how it's applicable to the workspace and really helping to inspire folks to use this because it's it doesn't cost money to do this. This is easy. This is something that just helps to promote connection with the people that you spend a majority of time with when you walk this planet. So,
90,000 hours we spend in our lifetime at work.
mhm.
Why
So
not?
let's be happy.
Let's be happy, folks.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I love it.